All right, folks. So, welcome to the Journalist Development Series webinar. And I, I know most of you all know me, but my name is Russel Midori. I am one of the founders of Military Veterans in Journalism. I'm also a certified Part 107 certified UAS pilot. And the reason that you're hearing from me today is because um, well, I think we're going to go pretty heavy into drone photography in the coming months with some of our guest speakers. And my hope was that in talking to you during this session, I can familiarize some of you with the process of actually acquiring your Part 107 certification, which is what you need to fly a drone commercially. For commercial use. And commercial use in this case does include journalism. Basically, a Part 107 certificate, which is issued by the Federal Aviation Administration, is required pretty much for any time you want to make money in any way by flying a drone. Okay. So I see we have not too big of a room right now. And just to get a sense of where everybody is, I'd love if we could just kind of, how many participants do we have? A total of maybe 10. So what I'd love if we could do is just kind of go around the room. Let me know if anybody happens to already have a Part 107 license, by the way. Let me know if you've already got this certification, and if you don't, and maybe just tell me why you're attending this event and what you're hoping to learn. Quickly give me a couple of headlines, who you are, what you're hoping to learn. I don't know what the best order to go in is. Perhaps Noel over at the MVJ studio can guide that. But the first person I can see on my screen is Keith, and if that holds up true, what I'd love to hear from you, Keith, is just tell me what you're doing in this class, why you signed up for this today, and what experience you might have with drone photography.
Hi, glad to be here. I'm doing a startup that's primarily built around helping disabled veterans, especially combat wounded disabled veterans, in scuba diving. And I'm looking out into the future and thinking, what other ways can disabled veterans incorporate their experiences, liberating experiences with aerial drones?
Oh, very good. Thank you very much for that, Keith. And I'll mention there's a really great piece that I happen to contribute to, produced by Longlead, called Home of the Brave, which is a story about disabled veterans that uses principally drone photography to tell its story. And I had the honor of being the drone pilot who did that. Here, let me see if I can share that real briefly here. There we go. So this is Home of the Brave. This has been a really very successful a very successful project to help with the 4,000 veterans who are homeless in the LA area. And all of this started with my drone photography. And by the way, it's led to legislation that has changed the lives for many of these veterans, and even new legislation coming in the Trump administration that seeks to rehouse them. You can see there, if you're looking at my screen, that is the area. This is the area where I flew over. These are the little tiny houses where they shelter these veterans. You can see they're just a little bit bigger than a little bit bigger than a place, and then it's mixed with regular photography as well. And this was actually a great project that I got to do, and I would not have been able to do it if I didn't have my Part 107 license, which is what this particular class will be about. You can see there's a whole lot of drone photography in this, and the strong photography of it is actually what what I think, as the photographer, what I always think is that the strong photography is the reason why it was such a successful project. But safe to say that drone photography has been used in helping disabled veterans, calling attention to their stories. As far as, boy, Underwater photography. That's my next big dream, to be able to do some work with that. And we actually have some friends at MVJ who have done some pretty great underwater photography. And maybe I don't know, Noel, if there's any room in the series, maybe we can add that sometime down the line, because I think that would be a great course. The next person that I have in front of me is Marie. Marie, why don't you tell us who you are and what your experience with drones is, and why you're.
Okay. My name is Maurice Chadden, Chandler, Arizona, and I'm very active with the local host of the American Legion. So we'd like to be able to use drone photography for some of our activities, for the community, trail rides, stuff like that. So that's one thing, getting some good media attention on the things that we do in and out of the community for veterans. It's all veterans. And another thing I do, which I'm interested in this particular discussion, I still work part-time, even though I'm way too old to be still working part-time. But I work part-time doing emergency response planning, and I'd like to incorporate some drone photography to reduce the cost of on-site personal visits and stuff like that.
Very great. Thanks so much, Marie. Daniel.
Hi, my name is Dan Gorman. Russell, good to see you again, quote unquote. It's been a while. Yeah, so I saw the series came out and I was really excited because lately I have been thinking, so a number of years ago, pre-pandemic, I had started to build very, very slowly my own photography business. And I, with the goal of being a photojournalist, working photojournalist. And obviously the pandemic did not gel well with that. I'm also a independent licensed clinical social worker. I have my own psychotherapy practice now. So over the past few months, I've been thinking about really planning on, getting my photography business back going again as well. My photojournalism, getting back into it. And to be honest, for years I had been kind of against drone photography. I was a purist. I was very much like, we shoot with a Nikon F, and that's what we did. That's photojournalism, right? But I've changed my mind now, and I've seen kind of drone work within journalism that's really good, present company included, and how it can have a social impact. So it's made me really want to at least get my Part 107. I've looked into some research on how to do it. So this class is right up my alley. It's perfect. Perfect timing.
I used to think the same thing about AI, so
Yeah.
I'm not a purist any longer.
Well, I'm not quite over that fence yet.
I'm still there too.
Yeah, not quite over that fence yet.
Daniel, my friend,
Do
always
you
a
use the
pleasure.
keyboard?
Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you. And next I have Theodore. Mr. Stanton, how are you? Yep, there he is. Theodore, can you there? All right. Well, it looks like you unmuted, but we can't hear you. Sorry, partner. Maybe we'll come back to you. Victoria, how are you doing?
Hi, Russell. Can you hear me? Okay, good. I am a student graduate photojournalist from UMD, and I'm trying to find ways to set myself apart aside from my military experience. So that's why I'm here.
That's great. What did you say? UMD was that?
Yeah, University of Maryland.
Very cool. Thank you, Victoria.
Mhm.
And by the way, how close are you to graduating?
I have about a semester and like 8 credit left.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, happy to talk more about that with you offline if you want some other ideas.
Oh yeah,
Lourdes, good to
thank you.
see you. How are you doing? How's it going?
Good. Can you hear me okay? I'm on my phone. Yeah, okay. I've been looking at some photojournalism jobs on LinkedIn, and I've noticed that some of them are actually requiring drone licenses. So I figured this would be a great class to join.
Yep, you nailed it. That's what this class is all about. Hinaro, how are you doing, buddy?
Oh, good. It's been a long time. So, but yeah, no, I saw some of this stuff pop up, and so for MVJ, actually back in 2022, I was on the first Disabled Veterans Speaker Bureau, uh, and had to take a step back from journalism for a little bit, and now just trying to get back into it. Now on like a commercial property real estate management side, we've used drones for like doing thermal scans of buildings to find like where there's air gaps and things of that nature, and just looking to really try to switch over more towards the journalism side to be more full-time and have something that's, a reliable source of income, if you will. And like everybody's saying, kind of set apart and go that way.
Very good. Thanks a lot, buddy. Well, I'm glad you're here. Very, very good to hear your voice. Next, I have Bob. Bob Kirby, you there? Can you hear us?
Yeah, good morning.
Good
Can you
morning,
hear me?
Bob. Where are you, in Okinawa?
Yeah, I'm unseen. I'm calling you from a federal prison. No, I'm in Southern California, not far from you in Riverside. So, to get a short story, I started seeing the drones being used in Civil Air Patrol. I don't know if you know what it's a Air Force auxiliary, and they have literally been training thousands of young cadets, kids that are under 18 years old, and they're getting their license, their Part 107. But at the time, I was for the last 5 years, I've been working with the Air Force in imaging predators, training JTACs how to use predators and things like that. I started in imaging at graduate school, and we were using NV, ArcView, and things like that. And so I got really heavy into that part of the technology, but it was very expensive. Imaging was very, very expensive. If you remember the fires we had in the Santa Monica Mountains, we were doing some research there, and the Navy was charging us, I don't know, $3,000 for imaging, and even more for satellite imaging. And now we're looking at this new technology, and you cannot see a news program without drone imaging. You just can't. In fact, we kind of expect it now, regardless of what's going on. And I think when it comes to as a disabled veteran, I kind of agree that we've got a vast group of veterans out there that are looking for something. They're sedentary for various reasons, and as the technology improves and we have drones that can stay up for a longer period. I mean, my drones can stay up for 20 minutes, and here I have a $4,000 drone that can stay up for 20 minutes. And so there's a lot of issues about that. But, the drones we're seeing in agriculture and things like that can stay up for an hour, and they can image a vast area of land. But I think for journalism, some of these micro drones that we're seeing in the Army, in the military, these little handheld devices where they go into rooms and things like that. Can you imagine that in the hands of a journalist? The only problem we have is that whenever we have some type of disaster area or crime scene, something like that, they usually put some kind of restrictions on drones.
There are there are a lot of restrictions on where you can fly a drone. Sometimes it's not necessarily a crime scene. I mean, it might just be that there's a baseball game a professional baseball game happening nearby, and the FAA requires that you can't fly your drone there. Or even like I was flying over a VA center that they just didn't want people in there. But when you have your Part 107 license, that actually enables you to request those authorizations to fly in places where where you're not allowed, because you'll need a waiver, right? For instance, you might need a waiver, and you can get waivers for all kinds of things. You might need a waiver to fly in a particular location. That is very common. When I was, before I had a Part 107 license, I was largely restricted in where I could fly, and the technology works with the government to make sure that, you know, it doesn't usually allow you to fly in places where you can't. So having the Part 107 license actually enables you to put in your license number and get a get waivers. But Bob, yeah, the technology is going a lot of amazing places, and thanks for sharing that. And thanks for being here. Looking forward to more questions from you. Next I have Jeff, Mr. Rowe. Jeff Rowe, you there?
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Jeff.
The drones, I think, have just become an essential journalism tool. And I'll just give you a real practical need I've got for one right this minute. I'm launching a news site here in Long Beach. The north and the west side of Long Beach, California, were news deserts before that term was even coined. So a fairly big deal here now is what's going to become this old Food for Less, which is a mega store that closed during COVID. Well, the city is saying that a El Super and a Choose Fitness are going to move in there, but then suddenly the deadlines fell by the wayside, and the explanation that the city gave was that the roof had collapsed during a big storm. Well, we didn't really have a big storm. We had some rain. So it's just an essential part of the reporting in this piece, I think, to get a drone up there and take a look at the roof and take a picture. I've got grave doubts, that it all collapsed. I think it was probably more likely, something fell through in the negotiations or whatever, but we just got to have that picture.
Very good. Getting to the bottom of stuff, sometimes you got to get to the top of it, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah, good line. I'm going to use that one.
Karan, how are you? Very nice to see you, dear. Welcome. What made you want to sign up for this course on getting your Part 107 drone certification?
Because it's you, and because I know how excited you were I remember how excited you were when you got your certification. And just like many have spoken, it's an essential tool because there's nowhere you can look and broadcast. It's not going to have some sort of drone footage or in photography. And I'm really thinking about picking my camera back up. And this will be a useful skill, and it give me another excuse to buy more toys.
Yes, useful indeed. Yes, and a great excuse to buy toys. And last up on the list, I have Niurka Castaneda. Am I saying that right? Welcome. Tell us about yourself and why you signed up for this class.
I'm Niurka. I'm here from Miami, and I love drone. I tried to get a class, a workshop a while ago, and I want to explore more. I think it's a very useful tool as a photographer, as a journalist, and it can really give you leverage.
Very good. Thank you. And that's true. And so all the things that all you guys said, I don't have any disagreement with. Drones are a really great tool. They're being used all the time, but not anybody. You can't just use them. You can't just go out and use them. And here's the thing. One of the things that I always tell members of military veterans in journalism, if there's something that you want to do and it requires a certification, it's real simple. Get the damn certification. Get certified, okay? We're going to have later courses with people who fly drones more often than me and probably more professionally than me. And they're going to give you great tips on what you can do with the drone and how you can, how you can use it, how you can get the best value out of it and stuff like that. But I want to start with you guys where I started with my journey into drone photography, which really started, I guess, about 8 years ago. Started about 8 years ago, where I was flying. I was working for CBS News, and I was doing a lot of side projects as well. And I was just honestly flying my drone illegally. And when I say illegally, what do I mean? It's not illegal for me to fly the drone for recreational use if I don't have a Part 107 certification, right? But if I intend to make any money from that flight, then you need a Part 107 certification. What do we mean by making money? Well, some of you guys talked about using the drone for journalism. If you plan to use your drone for journalism, even if you just want to have a couple of drone shots for your reel, and your reel might make you some money, you need to have a Part 107 license, even if it means that your reel is just going to get you hired to do something, right? Somebody else mentioned real estate photography. If you want to shoot real estate, or if you want to do thermal imaging on sites, or if you want to do agricultural sites, any of those things are commercial uses. Frankly, there's just not much that you can do with a drone if you don't have a Part 107 certification. Why do I say certification? The FAA kind of intermittently uses certification or license. It's technically a certification, not a license. I can show you mine now. It's administered by the FAA, and it actually looks exactly like any pilot's license. So if any of you have ever seen a pilot, one time actually I was sitting at a bar with a pilot, and he told me he was a pilot, and I told him I was a pilot. And then I showed him that, and he totally believed me because it looks exactly identical. Now, I am a pilot in that I am certified to fly unmanned aerial systems, otherwise known as a drone. So this is one of my drones. This is the Mavic. I think this is the Mavic Air 2. Very small, but above 55 kilograms, which is the requirement for your drone. There are a couple that are lighter weight. You'll see about them on the test. And in order to fly this drone, in order for me to actually get my remote out, get it set up, and fly this drone, I don't need any of the skills that we're going to talk about today, because what we're going to talk about today is getting your credential. Okay, getting your credential. I hate to think of it this way, but it's just kind of something that you have to do to even get started, because you really can't. It's like you if you don't have your Part 107 license, there's just nothing that you can do with a drone in journalism. There's nothing that you can do with a drone in real estate, right? So getting the license is the first step, and it's a little bit overwhelming. When I first started this journey into becoming a drone photographer about 8 or 9 years ago, I decided I didn't want to take a test. Even then, or I didn't want to take a course. Even then, the courses were about $500, about $500 to take a 3-week course to learn how to get your Part 107 certification. And I didn't want to spend the money. It probably costs more now, And I thought, this must be something I'm able to do on my own. I decided it was. And then I spent 3 years not studying, not looking into it, basically just feeling overwhelmed with the work of what I would have to learn. Just kind of maybe a little bit of that sense of imposter syndrome. Maybe this isn't going to work out anyway. I don't want to, and so, and honestly, I didn't motivate myself to do it. So let me say, don't be me. What I'm going to tell you today over the next half an hour is basically that getting your Part 107 certification is not hard. It is not expensive. It's something that you can do on your own. Now, if you love going to a class, maybe you want to meet people, maybe you enjoy the classroom learning environment, then sign up and pay for a class, or talk to other people at MVJ for advice. But you can do this in a couple of weeks, and it doesn't take too much money. It doesn't even take that much studying. I'll tell you that I studied for my Part 107 test for about 20 hours. I think I could have gotten away with about 12 hours of study, 12 to 15 hours of serious study, and you'll be able to qualify for this. Okay. So what do you study? First of all, the FAA has a book that they release about this every year. It's the best possible book that you can get, and it is exactly what you would learn if you were to go to one of these, to one of the courses that you can get, okay? And I'm going to give you that in a minute. Hang on, let's see here. Here it is. I'm gonna put a test prep book. Now mine is for the 2021 version, but you obviously want to get the 2025 version. But I'm just going to share it into the chat so that you can see what the book is, who makes it, all that kind of stuff. I get my stuff at bookshop.org. I'm sure you can get it on Amazon if you prefer. But bookshop.org is a nice way to give back to local bookstores. Drone test prep. Let's see. Here's the Amazon one with the updated. This is the updated version of the book on Amazon.com. Now, here's the thing. If you just get this book and you study it for about 12 hours, you're going to be fine. You're going to pass this test. And passing the test is what you need to do in order to get your drone license. All the other stuff that we talk about with the drone license is not that important, or sorry, with drone photography is not that important until you actually have the credential. You got to get in the club so that you can do it. And the credential is pretty easy to get. That book, if you study that book and you take the practice tests, for a drone test, you only need to get, I think the test is 60 questions, and you need to get 40 of them right. I got 58 of them right, okay, because I really studied my butt off. What you'll need to learn, the stuff that, and if you're writing this down, I didn't prepare a presentation for this, but if you're taking notes, now's a good time to write down the things that you're going to that you're going to be able to, that you're going to want to learn, right? So one of them is definitely go into the chat, get that book that I just put in there, and paste that into whatever you're keeping notes on, okay? And then what you'll learn in that book is a whole bunch of different topics around drone regulations, okay? That's like maybe 20% of the test. Mostly you need to know a lot about drone regulations. This refers to what the weight of a drone is that you're authorized to fly in certain airspaces, and stuff like that. The next thing that you'll need to learn, and this is kind of the second most important, maybe the most important thing that you'll need to learn, which is reading and interpreting sectional charts. Reading and interpreting sectional charts is the hardest part of the test. As in everything else you can just kind of study for, reading and interpreting sectional charts is the thing that you need to really know and know it well. And you need to be able to understand. Sectional charts are how pilots fly, okay? Now I want to reiterate, because I've said this twice now, and I want to reiterate. You do not need to know how to read a sectional chart to fly a drone. There's a lot of apps, there's a lot of stuff that's built into it. The FAA wants you to know how to read a sectional chart. Basically, and you'll see that most of this test is really about wanting you to understand something about the history and the difficulties of aviation, okay? Why does the FAA want you to know that? So you don't fly your drone into a friggin' plane. That's basically the reason why you have to take this test, is to make sure that you are not going to interfere with air traffic. That's why the FAA is concerned that you are a licensed UAS certified pilot, okay? So reading and interpreting sectional charts is the biggest thing that you'll need to learn how to do. That book teaches you how to do it. Another thing that I'm going to recommend is you get yourself a magnifying glass. This particular one, it lights up, which is really nice when you're reading a sectional chart. You can see, because the test has to be taken in person and on paper. The test is not some computerized thing that you're going to do. Once you take the test, you're going to be there, you're going to be looking at a sectional chart in a paper book, and you're going to have to make reference to that sectional chart so that you can say, for instance, maybe there's a limitation that you cannot fly your drone, say, 400 feet AGL above ground level. Okay. Well, if there's a what do you call it? A tower that is inside, that is underground level, you might need to know how far. The test might ask you something like, how far above this tower can you fly? And you'll need to know how to read the sectional chart so that you can understand how tall the tower is, what the airspace is. This is not going to be an in-depth thing on reading sectional charts, because frankly, it takes personal study time. You have to sit down with the book and you have to study it. If you study how to read sectional charts, that's going to take care of about 40% of the test. So if you know just your sectional charts and just your FAA, just your drone regulations, that right there, if you knew just those two things, is near a passing grade on this test. So if you only have 6 hours to study for the test or something like that, those are the two things that you should dedicate your time to: drone regulation and reading and interpreting sectional charts. Okay, another one, and these questions throw a lot of people, are the weather, the effects of weather on drones. Okay, you should know that how much visibility. Visibility is the main thing that you need to be concerned with the weather. Rain matters, okay, but the amount of visibility that you have is really the key. And you'll also need to know the regulations. For instance, I think you need a visibility of three statute miles. Check me on that. I haven't recently refreshed myself on the material, but I think you need at least 3 statute miles of visibility to be able to fly a drone. And that's because you have to keep the drone in your line of sight. Okay, you can never be flying a drone under a Part 107 license that you cannot see with your own 2 eyes. If you cannot see where your drone is, if you're just looking at your, unless you have a visual observer, right? You can have a visual observer, say, that's 300 feet away from you or something, and he's able to visualize where the drone is, and he's talking to you on a radio or on your phone or something like that. Okay. So the amount of visibility that you have is very important. Understanding the weather, knowing how to read sectional charts. But the biggest piece of advice that I can give you is buying that book. If you buy that book and study that book for 12 to 15 hours, you're going to be able to pass this exam. Once you pass the exam, then you're, well, a lot of you talked about using this as a business. Let me say, if all you do is fly a drone, if all you do is that you're a drone pilot, that is not a huge added value. I mean, having a drone license, to me at this point, if you're into photojournalism, it's like a basic requirement. It's like getting a real estate license if you want to be a real estate broker or something. I've made so much more money as a result of the fact that I can fly a drone. I'm paid more than many of my colleagues at work who simply just did not get the drone certification. Paid like $3 an hour more than many of my colleagues as a result of this. $3 an hour means that in 2 weeks I've made more than enough to buy my certification, which at the time cost me $80. I think now it's up to $160 or something, and it's always going up. So sign up early to take that test. I've been kind of talking a lot right now. Let me ask, is there any questions about anything that I've said so far? Is everybody staying with me? I'm from New York, so sometimes I speak a little too fast. Anything that anybody wants to jump in and ask me?
Hey, so my question is, when in selection of a drone, how do you know what's great quality, what's not great quality? Are there recommendations and different price points, just like they are with our cameras?
My advice would be, I've never spent less than $1,100 on a drone. Okay, so and now that is, I've also never spent more than 2,000 on a drone, right? So the level of quality and accessibility right now, that's kind of the price range that I would anticipate that you should expect to spend to do professional drone work, somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000. All the products, all the drones that I've ever flown are DJI products, so I can't give you a great product comparison. DJI, I think, is a great company, though. I mean, other than being run by the Chinese Communist Party, but they do make a very good product, and it's very easy to use, and You know, I like the Mavic Air 2. That's the one that I use. Anything that says Pro behind it is going to be a little better. But you might want to start out with a cheap one, you know, get one from Walmart that you can bang around a little bit. And I'll say, though, with DJI, this is probably more important than which drone you pick, that if you do get a drone that costs $1,000 or more, DJI has a replacement insurance. And I definitely recommend that you get that, because I've crashed drones and the replacement insurance works great once. You can crash your drone once and you get a free one. Actually, this drone that I showed you earlier was I got it through the insurance that I had through DJI, because I took it out on a boat and I was shooting these fishermen, and one of the fishermen was about to cast his reel and I said, "Oh wait, make sure you don't hit the drone." And he said, "Okay." And then he threw his line right into my drone and it sunk into the water and I had to replace it for free though. I got it for free. Thank God I bought the insurance. Get the insurance. It's great. Go ahead, Bob, your question.
Thank you.
Bob, you still have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I took my Part 107 course from pilotinstitute.com, and they now have 9 courses that you can take on your own. Everything from basic drone to advanced mapping techniques, things like that, photo photography, commercial operations, things like that. These courses range between $150 and $400 if you get a bundle of them. But I'm just amazed at you know what's happening with this. I might add that we found that the Army kids were buying DJI drones because the government wouldn't supply them with drones. Of course, since the Chinese communists came out as being the manufacturers, they banned the GIs from buying these DJI drones on their own. But you'd be surprised at how many people are out there flying drones without a license. It's a nuisance, in fact, in a lot of ways. You know, a lot of perverts, you know, and things like that. But anyway, pilotinstitute.com, I encourage you to take a look at it. There's other companies as well, but these guys are really in the forefront.
Yes, I've seen that and I've watched their videos. They have they have interesting videos. They're good. For me, I'll tell you the truth. I'm just really cheap. You know, I'm really cheap, and that book that I put on there in the chat is $22. And you know, I mean, to be honest with you, getting your drone license it's just not that hard. I mean, like I don't know how else to put it. I can't imagine if you want to take a course, or if you enjoy the courses and they've got something for like $100 and that's in your price range, like, you know, rock on, more power to you. And I think Pilot Institute is a very well-known brand. I think they're based in Arizona. They have a lot of great resources for you. I'll tell you the truth though. I've still never seen a single resource that is better than the book that the FAA the book that the FAA has. You know, so that's my general advice. But thank you very much, Bob, for that.
Well, I just wanted to add one more thing. It's my understanding, I have friends in the FAA, that in the next year and a half, the FAA is going to start cracking down on people flying drones. In fact, they're requiring ADS-B on drones in a lot of areas now, and I think you'll probably see some very serious restrictions on drones, and that's where the 107 is going to be very important to have that.
Well, yeah, and the FAA already does crack down pretty severely on people who do not people who sell, you know, have content up without a license, and they did it a lot during the pandemic. They cracked down on a lot of them. You know, they even I think I even got an email from them accusing me of flying a drone. Like they'll look at you, they'll look at when you got your certification and ask when something was flown. So having your Part 107, it is the basic. It's what you need to get in the club, you know. To me personally, though, I think that a lot of and I don't know anything about Pilot Institute specifically, but I've seen a lot of these drone schools that are offering something that just is not it's just not that hard to do on your own. You know, it's hard for me to imagine spending money to do it. The other thing, though, is not only do you need to be licensed yourself, not only do you need your own Part 107 certification, you also need you need to register your drone itself. You need to actually register it with the FAA for it, for it to be a flight. And may I also mention, you'll want to get, at least what I do is I usually get short-term insurance for my drone. You can get something like $5 million of insurance for like $50 or something like that. But the first part is the registration. There's something called Drone Zone. That's an FAA site that you should bookmark it. Actually, I would say bookmark. I just dropped it into the chat. I would say bookmark that right now. That is the Integrated Airman Certification and Rating application. Sorry. What I just sent you is Drone Zone. That is where you register your drone. And you'll need a registration in order to get the insurance. Why does all this matter? Because you are liable for something that happens as a result of you flying your drone. I do not fly a drone on any flights without some kind of insurance unless I'm in like a field where nothing bad can happen, okay? There's rules and regulations around flying over people or vehicles now that there used to not be, but look, if your drone drops out of the sky and hits somebody's windshield and then they crash into a museum or something, you don't know to what degree you might be held liable for that. So you want to have your drone registered. That's in the chat that I just shared with you guys now. I just shared a link to that registration where if you have a drone, you're going to want to register it. Okay. Here is also in the chat. I'm putting. There we go. The Integrated Airman Certification and Rating application. This is the site that you'll need to basically become an airman with the FAA. You'll fill out the profile details for your application. There's a lot of bureaucratic hoops. Basically, my advice to you is get through all these bureaucratic hoops because flying a drone is a lot of fun. It can be very lucrative, and these are basically the things that you want to do. Once you have your airman, your airman certificate, you want to you want to get an airman services account as well. Let me copy link address. I'm just going to put a whole bunch of great links in here for you guys. Okay. And if you, sorry, I'm not sure if I figured out how to go to Google Maps. Okay. Using that Airman Services account, you can sign up for your exam, stuff like that. Let me get the exact copy link address, the exact exam sign up page in here as well. My advice to you is get that book. The first thing that I put in there, that book that is published by the FAA. It has a bunch of test practice exams. It costs $22. Get that book and set aside maybe 3 hours a day for 4 days for you to study, okay? And if I were you, I would sign up for the exam before I even bought the book. In fact, I did. I signed up for the exam, and then I said, geez, I better study for this thing. Let me buy this book. And I did it in 3 weeks. Within 3 weeks, I'd studied enough. I studied for about 20 hours, and I got through the exam. The exam, like I said, it's 60 questions. If you read that book and maybe there's a couple other great things that you can sign up for, like let's see here, hang on. All right, Tony Northrup. It's a little bit dated now, but Tony Northrup has this great video on basically everything that you're going to be asked on that FAA test. I would give that one watch before you do it. And then there's another kind of an overview video that also is really just great stuff. These are all the resources that I studied when I was getting my exam. There might be newer stuff now, Bob has linked to some drone courses at pilotinstitute.com that maybe some of those will be worthwhile for you as well. And but frankly, it's, I mean, the thing about this is you got to do it. You got to do it. It makes you much more, useful. Those are basically That's basically what I came here to tell you is study that book and take this test. Once you've done those things, there's still a lot more work that you kind of need to do, right? If you actually want to have a drone services business, it's not easy. You got to kind of have a lot of for instance, if you want to work for if you want to do a job for a real estate agency, let's say, and you want to do drone work for them, you're a lot more useful to their service if you can also edit the video, right? There's other things that you'll want to study and learn. But it's an amazing credential. It's the kind of credential that if you can put it on your resume and people can instantly say, oh, this is a credible photographer. This is somebody who's kind of gone above and beyond in photography to get themselves certified in something that is eminently useful in basically every video production that you do. I mean, nowadays, every shoot that I have, I'm bringing my drone, I'm checking the weather, I'm at least using it for establishing shots if I'm in some town or something like that, all right. What other questions do we have? I want this to be properly question driven to make sure I'm not answering things that you're not asking. Yeah, go ahead, Marie.
I have a question about the registration. Is it possible to tap into some sort of, or cull out some sort of database on registered drone pilots in a particular county or what?
Not that I know of. That's more like an investigative journalism question. If the FAA
Emergency disaster prep.
Right. Oh, interesting. But even still, though, let me ask you, Marie, because those would those flights be to actually, for instance, during an emergency, or more like imagining, oh, maybe this is an area that's likely to flood or something like that?
Well, that and estimating damage assessment after the fact. We have made extensive use of ham radio operators for years, and those they're registered at FCC.
Yeah.
So what about this? Would this be a similar database?
I don't know if the FAA has a regularly updated list of pilots in the area, but I'll tell you how I would go about identifying or solving that problem is using LinkedIn. If your organization has any kind of LinkedIn, what do they call it? Like a paid account, a professional account.
Yeah.
Or you can do it with a like a recruiter account. That's like $100 a month or something. So it's not cheap, but it's not that expensive either. But if you have a recruiter account, you can do an advanced search. Anybody who has, I don't know of anybody who has an FAA license that doesn't have it on their LinkedIn. That's like that's the one. It's the one place you would put a certification like that, and you can filter based on an area, a regional area, and that certification. And if I was in your shoes, Marie, and I was trying to find drone pilots in an area, I would do it that way rather than by, say, the FAA database. You could have thousands of people that got their license, but they're not actively using it, or they're not.
Yeah,
they're
that's
not
a better idea.
Yeah, that would be my guidance on that. Other questions?
How long do the certification last?
So your certification will last for 2 years. In fact, mine recently expired, and my boss just asked me to recertify. If you look at those those links that I sent you, now by the way, the recertification is not a big test that you have to take. The recertification used to be a recertification test. These days, it's mostly just kind of a video that you have to watch to make sure that you're still kind of on the up with the recent changes to rules For instance, you now need propeller guards if you're going to fly over people or cars, things like that that you'll learn on the recertification. So really your actual certification is kind of lasts for your whole lifetime, but it's only valid so long as you are current with your recertifications, which is every 2 years. And that takes like a half an hour. I'm going to do it when I get off of this call. I was hoping to do it before this thing so that I would have some better advice for you guys, but I'm going to do it after I get off of this call. And if you guys have questions about that, I'll be happy to answer it. Go ahead, Henaro.
Oh, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yep, there you go.
All right. Yeah, no, I was going to ask about that. Like you said, the propeller guards and whatnot, going back on probably dated information, we were trying to use a drone to scan a high rise in downtown Houston. And one of the safety precautions was that since there was over a sidewalk, the drone had to be equipped with a parachute. So do you know kind of any of those, I guess, recommendations?
I'm sorry, whose safety precaution was that?
I don't know if it was FAA or if it was City of Houston.
That sounds like a bunch of horse hockey to me. As far as I know, at least according to the FAA, what you need is propeller guards. You need propeller guards that will a parachute. I've never heard of that. I'm sorry if I'm out of line. I would have to check. I'd have to check the regulation on that, but I'm not familiar with that. So sorry.
Maybe. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. I think it was a City of Houstonism, where they were just trying to.
There are all kinds of laws also here in New York that we have to follow. You're not allowed to take off or land a drone in the city limits of New York. May I say that the official guidance of military veterans in journalism is that you should follow all local ordinance, local rules and regulations around flying UAS, but the FAA that's who really matters, in my opinion. That's the laws that I try to comply with to make sure that I'm not in violation of any federal laws, and definitely though, if there are any, I love every safety thing that I can affix to my drone. My drone has nighttime lights, even though I almost never fly at night. I have propeller guards that I put on my drone, even when I'm not flying over people, even though it's kind of a pain in the neck to install. I've never heard of a parachute, but I think that's a pretty neat idea. If I learn more about it, I'll take it. I can't imagine how it would be activated, how it would know that the drone was going down, but I think it's pretty cool. Bob, do you have a question, or is your hand still raised from a previous question?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I forgot to put my hand down. I'd use the bathroom seat, so I left it up. I just wanted to say, if you Google the Los Angeles City drone requirements, they're a lot. Yeah, I mean, their restrictions during any kind of events and things like that are they're a lot. I mean, not to mention your Part 107. But they require permits for certain things, and you're right. I seem to recall somebody flew a drone somewhere close to LAX, and I believe they were not only arrested by LAPD, but I believe they were given 4 months in jail and like $5,000. So yeah, talking about a cheap drone, but anyway.
Right. So yeah, thank you for that, Bob. So yeah, understanding the rules and regulations is really key, and that's the reason for taking this certification. Once you actually log on, once you're actually flying the drone, right, you'll have the remote in your hand, right? You'll take your usually a cell phone or some kind of device by which you'll monitor what the drone is doing, and it looks kind of like this. And once you have this plugged in to your phone and it's connected to the drone and you're flying it, you can see the sectional charts, I mean, it's not quite a sectional chart. It's not a sectional chart in the way that you get on the certification test, right? But you'll see what that Class B airspace is. Your drone will warn you if you're flying into, say, Class B airspace or something like that, right? The way airspace works around an airport, it's essentially like a layer cake, right? Where, basically anything right around the tower is Class A airspace, right? And then there's different regulations coming out from there. But I've gotten permission. Once you have your Part 107 license, getting the authorizations is not hard. You can get permission to fly near an airport at a certain altitude, for instance. Even if it's low visibility, you can get a waiver for low visibility. But you can't get any of these things if you don't have the Part 107. Because once you have the Part 107, it gets you in the club. It used to be an app called Kitty Hawk. Now I think it's called Aloft or Aloft. I don't know, ALOFT. That's a good one to have, a good app to have that you can, you can see the airspace around you and make sure that you're not violating any laws. Let me. I'm going to show it to you right now on my phone. So here you can see, if you can see my phone. Well, unfortunately, maybe you can't. Hang on. Will that help? So if you can look at my phone right there, okay? I could do this as a share screen, but I want you to see what you would actually look at, right? If I was going to take off my drone, this is what I'd be looking at. And you can see those different airspaces that are all around me right now. Some of them are blue, some of them are yellow. The yellow ones, let's see if I can violate them. Let's see if they'll let me violate them. So here I am right now. The airspace that I'm in it's controlled airspace, okay? Allegedly there's, it's Class B airspace because I think it's a permanent flight restriction. Okay, so I can see that I have a permanent flight restriction over my house right now, okay? But because I have a Part 107 license and I'm registered with that, I can request right there. I can request an immediate authorization to fly in this area. So let's see if it gets approved. I'll see if it's too hard. I'll just give up. But I can fly up to 50 feet with that. Now, if I didn't have my Part 107 license, I would not be eligible to do that. Okay. With your Part 107 license, you learn the laws and you learn the laws so you don't break them and so that you don't end up in jail like that poor guy did. Definitely you want to stay away from airports though, away from Class B or Class A airspace, or even Class C airspace, but all of them have regulations and you get waivers for them. You get waivers right through Aloft, right on your phone or your device or whatever you're using. That was kind of interesting. What other questions do we have? Do we have anybody else have drones is such a broad topic that I want to try and narrow it down to the areas of focus that you guys are concerned about. Yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I'm just curious. Like, will a regular pilot's license they require like a Class 3 medical before you can go study and take your test and all that stuff? I'm just wondering if there's anything with drone pilot, maybe not even in the beginning, but like in some situations, do they require any kind of medical medical cert, like sign off, anything like that?
So they don't require a medical assessment, but what was pretty interesting is, the FAA has a lot of concerns about suicidality of pilots. Obviously, over the years, they've built in a lot of things into all of their testing that has a kind of a mental health element to it. They'll ask you questions like, for instance, there are, sorry, I wish I was a little fresher on the material, but for instance, there will be questions on the test that ask you about how you're feeling inside, and essentially it's kind of a reminder that this is a very serious responsibility that you have to be flying an aircraft over buildings, over infrastructure, over traffic and people, and there's you have to make sure that you have the right state of mind, that you're not trying to be a show off, that you're not trying to, you know, uh, you're not flying with your ego, so to speak, and on the test, on the Part 107 exam, there actually are questions about that, and so your test prep book will prepare you for that. Yeah, go ahead, Victoria. Victoria, you have a question? No, did you put your hand down?
Sorry, I was having trouble getting my microphone started. Do you know if any of this applies, like doing drone photo overseas? And do you have any experience working with like the major networks as a photojournalist
Yeah,
with this licensure?
So, okay, the Part 107 certification authorizes you to fly in America, in the United States of America specifically. Okay. Every country has its own different laws around drone stuff. Okay.
Makes sense.
Let's see, I've flown in Mexico. I flew a drone in Mexico over the border wall, violating a couple of different laws, and the Mexican army did send like a 7-ton, and I noticed they were right in the area where my drone had been, and I flew my drone out of there very quickly and got into my car and sped off. So Part 107 does not give you any permissions outside of the United States of America, and that does include Guam, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, all those places are controlled by the Federal Aviation Administration of the United States, but other countries have different laws. India, for instance, I've flown my drone in India, and they have incredible, they don't have freedom of speech the way we have freedom of speech. They're not allowed to just film anything they see on the street. I took my drone to Bahrain, and it was confiscated at the airport, and I had to go to the airport like 4 hours early on the way out of country to pick it up. So that was a pain. It's really good to know the laws where you're going though, and know though an FAA Part 107 certification does not give you any authority outside of the United States.
Okay. And about using it, do you have any experience using it with like the large media corporations? Have you worked with any of those guys using your drone?
Sure, yeah. So, if you're talking about a broadcast outlet, let's say NBC, CBS, or ABC News,
Yeah.
so someone in that vein.
Mhm.
So, if it's at the network level, typically a drone is not flown by anybody except for a photographer who works for that organization who has a Part 107 license. And that is not so much governed by the FAA laws as it is governed by the union laws that those companies comply with, right? So for me, I'm a member of of the union, the photographers union in New York called IBEW. It's actually an electricians union, but it's a news photographers union. So if you're not a union photographer, you will not be you'll very, very, very unlikely that you'll be flying a drone unless you're out of the continental United States where their collective bargaining agreements don't hold. So if you're doing like overseas work I have flown a drone overseas as a CBS journalist, not as a cameraman, right? Like as just a news producer. And I was out of the country. That was when I was in India. It was before I had a Part 107 license. So I guess there are some circumstances where it happens, but generally speaking, those news agencies, the big ones, have union photographers, and if you're not a union member and not a photographer with that company, you probably won't be flying a drone for them. That said, drone photography is used in every kind of digital media available now. Every kind of digital media, every kind of documentary, thing. So there are great applications for journalists all over. I know that actually, I think it was was it Eve Sampson? And there was an MVJ member who got a fellowship with the Washington Post who had a drone license. I could be mixing up the names, so forgive me. But if you're talking about a newspaper, a news outlet that isn't a big, robust union shop, then yeah, there's a good chance that anybody with a Part 107 license will be, will be useful to gathering that photography. And may I say also, if you have a Part 107 license, you can also delegate other people to fly the drone or to be your visual observer, that's communicating with you from a distance, let's say. So maybe maybe you're trying to get a job with CBS News or something, and you're a producer, but just having a Part 107 license means that you are adding value to everybody on that crew because you're a more useful visual observer. And if you happen to be working with a photographer who does not have a Part 107 license, you can be the pilot in command, and that and they'll fulfill their duties of having a union photographer on the shoot. I don't want to get too deep into that because I don't want to say anything that's going to piss off my union. I know this is getting live streamed around the world or something, but there are a lot of different union restrictions that happen when you're talking about a big news outlet like ABC or CBS or something like that.
That makes sense. That's still a good thing to keep in
questions,
mind.
Victoria,
Thanks.
or others? All right, very well. So let me just give you like I haven't really given you any specific information about the regulations and sectional charts yet, and I don't know how useful that would be to you in this particular course, but we can talk a little bit about them. Like I said, drone regulation and the reading and interpreting of sectional charts are going to be the biggest things that you see on that Part 107 test. Understanding weather, understanding visibility is another really important subject, including the interpretation of weather reports. There are drone maintenance questions, it might ask you on the test about look, you should have all your batteries 100% charged on your first flight every time you take off, including your drone batteries. Nothing should be like, oh, I charged it 3 weeks ago and it should be fine. You know what I mean? It should have a recent, fresh, full charge. You have to know a little bit about emergency procedures, but mostly you just really need to know how to stay the heck out of the way of manned aircraft. If there are any manned aircraft in the area, that is the biggest threat that the FAA is concerned about, and why the FAA wants you to have these, sectional chart knowledge and stuff like that. We can take a look at let's see what a sectional chart looks like. Okay, just give me a moment. Okay, sorry about that. So, that's on the wrong one. Put that in there. Sorry, guys. Okay, so yeah, here's an example of what you might see on the test. If you're flying your unmanned aircraft at the maximum allowable altitude over the lighted tower that is southwest of Corpus Christi International, which is an airport code, what airspace would you be flying in, and would you need prior authorization to fly here? And so then you'll see a sectional chart. Whoop. Sorry about that. You'll see a sectional chart like this, okay? And here, here's this PDF has a breakdown of it where it teaches you how to read the sectional chart. This is all just what available simply online, right? A PDF online. Let me share it in the chat and you can see it. But I don't want to over advise this because I know that there are some people who have found great use out of classes and stuff like that, but honestly, the resources are there. To me, it's all about having the dedication to learn enough about this stuff that you can. Sorry, my computer's not cooperating too well. But you want to learn about how these different things work so that you can pass your test, right? Like really, passing the test is what I'm hoping to motivate you to do. Using that book, learning the sectional charts, and basically having a general understanding of the history of aviation. All right, so I'm going to put my email address in the chat as well. Anybody who wants to email me and with further questions, or if you found yourself walking along the drone journey and you have something specific that you don't know, you can always email me at russell@mvj.network. I'll be happy to share other resources that I have. Also, I have two. It doesn't work? The Google link? Hang on one
No,
second.
it doesn't allow you access.
Okay, here's where here we go. This is the link that I meant to put on there. That was the wrong link. Sorry about that. And here's a blog that I wrote. This is all the stuff that you need to do. It's a little bit dated, but all the links still work most likely. That blog on my Medium is every place where you need to actually just to if you want to sign up, when you're signing up to take the test and all that. And then here's another blog that I wrote, which is all the details about what you need to do if you want to pass the test. So the first blog teaches you how to sign up. The second blog teaches you how to pass the damn thing. And I got to tell you, my recommendation for you guys, this test is not very expensive. It is hard. It's not the easiest test you've ever taken, put it that way, okay? It is hard in the sense that you should prepare to study for 12 to 15 hours. I studied for 20 hours and I got one question wrong. So it's not that hard, right? I think that you'll need to prepare to study for about 12 to 15 hours. And you should sign up to take this test. Take the test, even if you never use this credential. It's a great credential to have. It's not very expensive to get. It lasts for your whole lifetime with free recertifications. So I'm going to take a recertification in about an hour, and it's going to be free for me to do so, which is great because I have that original Part 107 certification. I make more money at my job than my colleagues because I have a Part 107 certification. I was hired to shoot the Home of the Brave piece by Longlead, which has just won a bunch of awards, I think, including a Webby, and has actually impacted court cases and legislation that is positively impacting the lives of disabled veterans. So these are all things that I was able to do simply by virtue of the fact that I had a Part 107 license. And let me reiterate, nothing that you actually, or very little that you actually learn on that Part 107 license is actually what you need to fly a drone. Now, the next course that we're going to take, that we're going to have rather in this lecture series is going to be led by Jeff and Jay, who are two great drone pilots who have done incredible work. And they're going to be teaching you things about how to use your drone for great journalistic projects. They're going to teach you things about how to capture great photography and do so safely, how to set up a drone, and things of that nature. And my advice to you guys is get your Part 107 license before you take that class, before your next course in this thing, because everything that you're learning from them will be infinitely more useful if you actually have the certification to be able to do it. It also makes you just look better. It's a useful thing on a resume, on a job application. It demonstrates the kind of level of professionalism in your photography that it's hard to demonstrate without certifications and without kind of, you know, tradecraft knowledge, so to speak, you know. So there's some resources for you. I'm always, guys, this is military veterans and journalism. You know me. If you want to hit me up, you could text me, you could email me, you know, you could talk to people in our community. But that's my spiel for this. Do we have other questions, other things people want to know about signing up for your test, questions about the test, questions about things that you need to be ready for, anything like that? Okay, anything else that we want to talk about? Anything else, any feedback you want to give about this, or anything that anything else that's on your mind about drone photography or aerial photography in general? All right.
How many times can you take the test?
Say that again.
How many times can you take the test? You
Did
don't
I take
pass the
it?
first time.
I took it just
Like how
once.
many times?
Oh, if you fail, let's say you take the test and you're not really ready yet, and you fail the test. Sorry. If you fail the test, they let you take the test again for free. You get to take it one more time. You get a second chance, one do-over. If you fail the second time, then you have to pay to take the test again. So definitely pass it the first time. Definitely pass it the first, or sorry, pass it by the second time, so you don't have to take it again. But if you follow my advice, if you buy that book, the book that I linked with that Amazon link in the chat, if you buy that book and study it for 15 hours, I promise you're not going to need to worry about taking the test a second time. You're going to be good to go.
Russell, your credentials as a journalist, have you had to use that to present it while you're flying a drone for an article?
So I've never done it like live. You mean like well, can you rephrase that question?
So if you're going to some type of situation, a disaster or something like that, and you want to fly your drone, but they say, well, I need to see some kind of press credentials. Have you run into something like that?
Okay, so not press credentials, so to speak, but yes, I do run into that, and there's always this question for people who fly a drone. Should I be very bold about the fact that I'm over here flying a drone, or should I try and do it kind of on the sneak? My answer to that is be bold, go bold. Say, well, first of all, of course I can be here. I have my Part 107 license. You have to have your license on you while you're operating the drone, by the way. So it's not exactly a press credential that you need. It's this credential, your UAS certification. The other thing that I'll do is I'll wear this vest here. I do this when I'm flying in New York because people love to interrupt you when you're flying a drone. So it's kind of a big, bulky, reflective, obvious thing. It says something like, you know, pilot at work on the back. I don't know what it says. You guys can read it. But you know, what I like to do is be very bold about it. I say I am a pilot, and here's the thing. It's not so bad if people want to interrupt you before you start flying your drone and they want to give you some flack about, oh, you can't fly that here, whatever. You know the laws, you know what you're allowed to do. What really is a huge problem about it is when they interrupt you while you're in the middle of a flight. So you might be doing something that is potentially dangerous, whatever, and then somebody sees that you've got a drone and then they want to come over and give you a bunch of flack, you know, while you're operating an aircraft in the air. And you know, first of all, I do COVID rules right away because I got my license during COVID. So I would immediately tell people, get back 6 feet, please. Having that vest on or something that gives you some kind of semblance of authority is a very good idea. And the main reason for that, though, is because you just don't want people bothering you while you are flying. While you are flying, you should never have your attention focused on a conversation. You should never have your attention focused on credentialing or something like that. You know, you're flying an aircraft in the air. That should be your sole and complete focus. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. I like the outfit. It's it would kind of scare anybody from asking questions.
That's the hope. That's what you want to do. And when people talk to you, especially while you're flying, look, you're piloting an aircraft. Speak to them in a firm, authoritative voice. Have a command presence about yourself when you do it, because people really have an enormous sense of entitlement when they're talking to somebody flying a drone. They basically think that all drones are just illegal and you're a troublemaker and a rabble rouser and whatever the hell they think. Your obligation is to fly that aircraft safely until you land, until it's completely landed and turned off. You're in charge of that aircraft. And if anybody wants to interrupt you, I don't even a police officer. If it's a police officer trying to interrupt you or whatever, say, "Officer, I'm in the middle of piloting an aircraft. I'll need you, if you need to speak with me, please wait until I land." And be firm and assertive about it, because it's dangerous. You're flying an aircraft through the freaking through unrestricted airspace. So anyway. Other thought.
When is the next class and this topic?
So that is in the process of being scheduled, and I think that we'll know within the next week when Jeff and Jay are going to be holding the next one. And I think it's going to be about a month away, something like that. So, if you're inspired by this, if you really want to get on it, I recommend sign up for that course and have your certification before the next class, so that you can really spar with these instructors and get some good information from them. All righty.
Yeah, it has been a really good class.
well, good. This was really just, this is a very big topic, but my hope for this class is that everybody in here knows that you can do this. This is not I feel like a lot of people try and make it seem like it's just really hard to get this credential. This is not a hard thing to get. It takes a little bit of dedication, a little bit of planning, but mostly, though, it takes you buying that book and registering with the FAA to take that test. You'll take that test. It's got to be in person. It's got to be, get your magnifying glasses ready, and get yourself a certification so that you can do it. And if you decide not to get a certification, well, hire me and I'll do it, because I have a certification and I need the money. Thank you guys for coming to this very first of MVJ's lecture series. You've got my email address, you've got my blogs, you've got all the resources that I can provide you, and may I please leave you with the encouragement to go forth and do great things, and I hope you all become successful drone pilots, and put out excellent journalism as a result of it. All right, thanks very much. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, Russell.
Everybody, welcome to the 2025 Journalist Development Series. This topic this month is, let me turn off my background here. The topic this month is photojournalism, drone aerial photography, and 3D printing to enhance storytelling. Let's see, we're still getting people filtering, and I'm just making sure. We had a moderator planned, but it looks like he might be running a little bit behind. So I will go ahead and introduce our presenters here. I'm really excited for this session, not just because of the topic. We were supposed to have Jay and Jeff last month. They had things come up, journalists, they get busy. And so we're happy to have them here. Jay is a veteran educator and one of the leading voices in drone journalism. He served for 12 years in the Army and National Guard, working as both a photojournalist and an engineer. And today he leads the Fullerton Drone Lab at Fullerton College, where he created one of the most comprehensive drone journalism programs in the country. He's a certified drone pilot. And, oh, there's Jeff.
There he is.
Let me just finish this. He's a certified drone pilot, FAA Drone Pro, AUVSI Level 3 instructor, and the author of a textbook that's become the go-to for drone imaging. Now in its 4th edition, but more than that, Jay's work is also rooted in something deeper, a passion for safety, storytelling, and giving back to the veteran community. Welcome, Jay.
Thanks.
And we also have, let's see, and Jeff Rowe, if you,
There's Jeff.
let's see, where's he at? I see him in the list.
Yeah, I think he's still settling.
I
Okay.
see him in there.
Okay.
His audio. Oh no, I see him. He just disappeared.
Yeah, he's got the headset on.
Jeff, can you hear us?
I can, and I'm sorry to be late. I don't have a good excuse, so.
Well, I introduced Jay. If you wanted to add anything, I know that you have a personal connection. If you wanted to talk about how you know him and then introduce our other presenter here.
Well, Jay ran the journalism program at Fullerton College the years that I taught there, and you know, we could sort of finish each other's sentences. You know, we were kind of like-minded, even though Jay was Army and I was Air Force, but we caught over that. We made it somehow. But Jay's done something at Fullerton College I haven't seen anybody in higher education do, but he created an entire new program and managed to get it, approved. How he did that, I don't know. Because it's hard to, change the type of pencils you buy, in academia, because they just like to do things, in a set way, the way they've been done for millenniums. So anyway, and then Jeff G is from the OC Register, where we overlapped for many, many years. Absolute all-pro photographer. So, and I think you all are going to get, the best instruction possible today in this. Let's see, what else do I have? You did all the intros then, right, Noel?
Didn't do Jeff's.
I didn't know this about Jeff, besides being an all-pro at the OC Register, that he started with the Red Cross doing disaster relief photography way back in 1989. And since then, he's done every NBA championship and humanitarian missions across the globe. Jeff's covered Hurricane Katrina, followed a young girl from rural Cambodia to the US for life-saving surgery, documented the opening of Shanghai Disney. I'm envious. Jeff's an award-winning photojournalist, a former NPPA regional director, proud CSU Fullerton alum. And when he's not behind the camera, he's outdoors hiking, biking, and spending time with his family. So thanks for joining us, Jeff.
I'm not a vet, but I appreciate what all you guys do.
Well, thank you. We appreciate what you do in the cause of freedom. So the with Jay, with that and with those introductions done, Jay and Jeff, stage is yours.
Thanks. Yeah, this is kind of informal, pretty much. I mean, we don't have anything super rehearsed, but Jeff will talk to you more about the stories and those kind of things as far as the applications go. And I'll talk more touch on a little bit of the regulations and stuff like that as well. Another thing to note, that Jeff is a drone pilot as well, licensed drone pilot. He's also a licensed pilot, Part 61. So he covers all those bases as well. So, but I know you guys had a little bit of a discussion last month about drones and those kind of things. So it's changing. I was having a conversation last week, as a matter of fact, about drone journalism and drone photography and stuff, and just from non-journalists, just having conversation, and they were talking about just how that the context in which they see things is greatly enhanced because of drones, right? Example, Southern California here, We've had a plague of our annual wildfire season, in a sense. So we've had the Palisades and the Eaton fires that did a lot of damage here in Southern California. And it's one thing to, from a journalistic standpoint, to go out there and tell the story, right? You're going to tell the story. You're going to go out there and talk to people. You're going to go out there and take pictures, right? And even if you bring multimedia, bring video cameras, those kind of things, and tell those stories and capture those images. You're going to have real people telling how they were displaced and all the trauma, and you're going to talk to firefighters. And somebody on the other side, the audience, is going to look at it or read the story or see the photos or see the videos and be like, wow, that's terrible. Wow, that sounds like it was a big one. That's pretty terrible. Wow, look at those pictures, right? You put a drone up that can elevate your perspective, and you can see the scope of just how big these fires are and just how devastating these fires were. And Jeff was able to photograph, and we'll have some stories about photographing some of those wildfires and the devastation of wildfires. But the idea, this is what we were talking about last week, is that they said you don't really get the scope or the context of it until you actually see it. Like, oh my God, right? I mean, you can read about it all you want, like, oh, that's terrible. When you see it, it's just the next level. So when it comes to the reasons of drone, the purpose of drones for visual storytelling, it raises the level, right? Perspectives. When I first got into drones, so years ago, I was always into the military when I was a kid, right? My goal from 3rd grade to junior in high school was Air Force Academy. I don't think I told Jeff Rowe this, but Air Force Academy, there was no plan B. And when I didn't get the congressional nomination, I was devastated, didn't know what to do. So I kind of floundered around, but eventually ended up in the Army. So, and then when coming back, the idea, I got interested in visual storytelling, right? When I came back to college, a good friend of mine was a photographer, photojournalist, and followed in his footsteps and kind of went on from there. And with that, had a passion for visual storytelling. But I had suppressed all that aviation, right? I was just buried that way deep because I didn't know what to do with it. Fast forward to about 2016, 2017, the National Press Photographers Association and Poynter Institute started doing these little around the country kind of training sessions for drone journalism. And I was lucky enough to, like, you know what, let me check that out. What exactly is that, right? Do you just park a drone over somebody's shoulder while they're doing interviews? What exactly is that? And so I ended up going up to University of Oregon for the training session up there. And it was me and a bunch of LA Times photographers and a bunch of just Oregonian and Seattle folks. And but it was totally eye-opening. There was just understanding that, like I start off with that scope, that perspective, how you can change and show a complete story with photos, but with aerial photos, right? There's a website called Unequal Scenes by a photographer named Johnny Miller. And Johnny Miller's he's from Detroit, but he's based in Cape Town, South Africa. And he did this big National Geographic grant funded kind of a project that just started by accident, where he popped a drone up and saw the difference, the economic differences between the communities, right? Shantytown villages and stuff, squatted villages all squished together right next to manicured lawns and stuff. You can't see that from the ground, but from the air, you can see it. And so that just made me, that was my, if you ever see that, it's unequalscenes.com. And you look at it, and that changed my perspective. That's when I realized, aha, this is what it is. So came back, I drank the Kool-Aid. So now I'm all into drones, built the drone program here, saw the value of visual storytelling. So, and then that's where it kind of took off from there. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff to kind of give a little bit of example, but and some of his stories. But I got some stories back, so we kind of maybe go back and forth, Jeff, if you don't mind. So I'll turn it
Yeah,
over to
because I know
Jeff.
what you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
You want me to go?
You want to go, or do you want me to keep talking? Either way.
Well, let me go. Let's switch off. We'll switch
That's
off.
why. That's
So
why I
we'll
figured.
rotate.
Let's do that.
Okay. So I would say just a little bit about my background. I got my private pilot's license and my instrument rating, and I loved flying, and I was doing it for fun. I never thought of doing it for a career. But along with that, that was in the mid '90s when I started at the register in '95, and then left in '97 and came back. But all along at the register, and the next place I went to, which was the Press Telegram in Long Beach, I flew in a helicopter. There was always this opportunity to fly in a helicopter every couple months. And a lot of photographers didn't like doing it because we'd fly in a little R-22 and they'd take off the door. So you had a seatbelt and there was no door there. So like, can I share my screen?
Go ahead, sure. Or maybe I have to, or Noel has
No,
to. But
I think I can do it. I think I can do it. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So I took this picture from a helicopter. But I thought it was a story about El Ninos and the waves hitting. This is in Capo Beach. And like Jay said, it's just a cool angle to show stuff you can't see from other positions. So I got kind of enthralled in this. I always loved flying in a helicopter. When I went to the Press Telegram in Long Beach, probably every other month, as a matter of fact, I was flying in a helicopter so much. The helicopter pilot agreed we'd go up for an hour and a half. I'd spend 45 minutes taking pictures. In 45 minutes, I'd get some helicopter training. So I have some time in my logbook in the helicopter. But that's expensive and you have to. So once drones started coming about, I've been flying drones since 2015. I realized I could do it myself, right? I could put the drone where I want, when I want. It's easy to deploy. So I was able to tell stories, just little stories. Like I would go to a surfer's funeral and be able to just tell their story and not have to worry about hiring a helicopter. I could choose, just take it out and do it. And I will say one of the things Jay touched on, you see a lot of pretty pictures from drones. Where my focus is journalism, like Jay said, it's about people. So I always try to include people in the picture because I'm trying to tell some kind of story. So these are just a few. This is a new housing development in Irvine. Just a few. This was a water park that opened in Irvine, the Wild Rivers. And you can't. Sorry, I'm not getting any few. You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I just it's weird in my ears. So I again, like Jay was saying, I'm trying to tell the stories with people from different angles than you'd be able to see from the ground, like really a new perspective. In this is a balloon in Irvine, a tethered balloon. But again, always including people. I think this was after COVID when skate parks started opening back up. But to me, the human element or the animal element makes the picture. But there's some like this was again, angles you just can't get. Like you could take a picture of this from the ground, but it doesn't have that same kind of effect. There are some pictures I take that you just can't see from the ground. I think Jay was talking about this was two whales that got stuck in the mouth of the San Gabriel River. Like you couldn't see them from the ground. And this shipwreck, you couldn't see from the ground. We heard this shipwreck this is off the coast of Huntington Beach, but there's no way you could see it from the ground. So just trying to tell stories. And even this, I could see this from the ground, but getting the angle and the top down angle that you can't see. It just gives you the opportunity to tell a story in a different way. And I gotta say, like I used to be when we first started flying drones, I still thought the helicopter was better because I could use my real camera gear, right? I could use my long lenses. But the lenses on the drones have gotten so good. I prefer the drone. Well, it's I go back and forth, but I'm very happy with the drone because I can put it where if I'm flying in a helicopter with a pilot, I have to try to describe to him where I want him to be to get the picture I want. This I have total control. This was just a flood. I think it was a high tide event in Huntington Beach. But that human element and see where the water broke through. This was an oil spill that leaked into the back bay or the wetlands. But you can't see that you can see people scrubbing up the ground. This was a couple years ago. We had a big snowstorm in the mountains, and these are workers looking for people and clearing cars. It's kind of a different angle. And then I still try to look for pretty pictures. You know, um, and Southern California shooting surfing and the mountains in the same picture. You can't do that from the ground. Even from the pier, it's kind of hard from Huntington Beach Pier. Um, and the nice thing about it is one of the things I love is I'm able to, like I said, take it out whenever I want. I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to make arrangements for a helicopter pilot. This was a Newport to Ensenada race that we shoot every year. So I'm just trying to do something different. And again, include the people. I just have a couple more. And then thought I had a couple more. Where we go? There we go. And different. This was a story a couple of years ago when the port was full. This is the port of Long Beach. But you can't get this angle from the ground. You can't see and this is actually, if you know the area, this is a pretty complex picture. You see the port of Long Beach. The more you look at it, you see the Queen Mary in the background, and then you see Orange County, and you see Saddleback Mountain. So things keep starting to appear. And this was when they were putting the space shuttle in LA. But I always like to show a sense of place too. You need to kind of tell a story. You need to have a sense of place, a reason why you took the picture. And even just basic things. This is construction on a freeway from a different angle, right? Here is they're replacing the iconic red roof pier at the Huntington Beach Pier. Again, they're kind of everyday stories we're telling, and I'm just using the drone to tell them in a different way. It's a construction. It's a different view you're not used to. This one, I'll stop with this one. But this one I thought was really cool. So I see this mirrored building, and I see the construction worker up there, and I'm like, that might make a cool picture. Just all these mirrored windows, and a little element of a person. And it wasn't until I launched the drone that I realized the reflection would change, because I didn't see this buildings and the city reflections from the ground. So once I got up, I'm like, oh, that's kind of a happy accident. That looks kind of cool. So sometimes things happen by accident. This was a COVID beach closure when they closed the beaches during COVID. So again, just trying to tell stories. I'll go through these kind of quick. Just trying to tell stories in a different way. The same daily stories we tell. So I'll stop on this one, but this was then I have more to show when you want to talk about the fires, because I have an interesting story to tell about that. This is a solar, well, not solar. Those are mirrors. This is in the desert, in the Mojave Desert. They're mirrors that point light up to those towers, and it boils water and turns a turbine for electricity. But I was just driving to Vegas, and I did for fun.
That place just fries birds.
Yeah, well, they're closing it down.
Yeah.
So I just thought I'd share those pictures, and hopefully that made sense. But Jay, you talk, and then I have another story to tell later.
Okay. Yeah, another thing too, I just want to talk about Jeff, and this is something I've never even brought up to Jeff, but every time I keep thinking to ask him about it. So one thing Jeff did a project on his own, where he did the alphabet from the air. He found things that look like an A, and then a B, and then a C, and then a D. Do you have that? Is that what?
Yeah. I'm going to that.
So
I have that.
it's just what boggles my mind. It's like, how are you looking at because you can't see it. There's an A, right? There's a B. Like C. Like who sees this? There's a D, like E.
So I have a couple of the same letters. I'll go through them quick. G. The G was very hard to find. Okay, so that's in Fullerton.
Oh yeah,
that's the tennis courts at Fullerton College.
Yeah.
And the N was kind of difficult too. The R was hard. O was easy. P, there's another P. Q. This was my first R, which was okay, but then I like this one better. This is Knott's Berry Farm. R, S, couple S's. T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. And those are all in Orange County.
And what boggles my mind is like, how much do you have to, like, Jeff flies a lot, but it's like, how much do you have to fly in order to see these things that all of a sudden, like, oh, I know where the R is, you know, kind of a thing.
Well, I to confess, and I did a lot of searching on Google Maps.
Okay.
I did a lot of searching on
Gotta
Google
do
Maps.
research.
but I will tell you, I found stuff. I found letters when I was flying, shooting other stuff too. I found some by accident.
Yeah.
But anyways, go ahead. Sorry. Thanks.
Yeah. That's just something that I thought was so impressive. And I just wanted to point that out. Just the idea of, you know, having the eye and the creativity to look for those things is something. Again, it goes back to even that silly compilation is you know, just having that kind of perspective. You just don't get that from the ground. But it is kind of a unique perspective and a unique way to show the alphabet of the county.
And that's how they ran it in the paper.
There it is.
So it was kind of cool. Okay.
Hey Jeff, Lourdes asked, what are you shooting with?
So right now I have a Mavic 3 Pro, but I also have a Mavic 3 and an Air 2S, which kind of a backup and old one. So I've gone through a number of drones, but right now I have the Mavic 3 Pro.
Mavic 3 Pro is pretty solid. Like that's probably about the,
Yeah.
You can shoot raw. Yeah, it's
the long lens is probably the weak spot. I wish it was a little better, but it's okay in daylight. I've used it in daylight, especially for the newspaper. It's fine.
Yeah. So so with that, I'll jump into a little bit on the regulation side of things too here. So in addition to all the things that I do, I'm also the FAA's safety team drone pro for Los Angeles and Orange County, which means the FSDO, the Flight Standards District Office in Long Beach, when they get questions or have anything related to drones or anything like that, they defer to me, or I'll go out and I'll speak to different groups in different cities and different organizations about drone regulations and about those kind of things. Because, you know, it's funny. So that some of you guys probably have drones, and you know, there's a lot of things when I talk to my students, there's a lot of times where it's like, well, you know, I'm going to tell you the law, but I'm also going to tell you what I can do, kind of a thing. So a lot of it, sometimes we'll run into like a stop sign in a quiet neighborhood at 2:30 in the morning. You, by law, if you're driving your car, do you come to a complete stop? Wait till to make you're sure that traffic is not happening, and you proceed with caution through the intersection? No. They're called rolling stops, right? So usually we just go in, we slow down, we see that it's safe. It's 2:30 in the morning, nobody's out there, and you roll through. Technically, breaking the law. Technically. So there, I say that within context of the journalistic experience, right? Because there are certain things where it's like probably a stop sign at 2:30 in the morning, kind of a thing, right? That's again from the FAA safety team, not telling you to break the law, but just saying there are some things that, you know, you might do questionably. But I always say, you know, use with that kind of mindset of, because the regulations, for the most part, I mean, obviously the main thing about regulations, the regulations are there to make things safe, make airplanes, helicopters, ultralights, gliders, everybody safe in the air, right? And safe on the ground from people doing stupid things with drones, right? So that's the purpose of the regulations. But there are some times that maybe in the aspect of a story or some kind of things, it's like, oh, you know, if I just do that, as long as you're not like outright totally breaking the law, and you're not doing anything unsafe, right? That's fine. So I want to kind of give that into context. But I bring this up because, like I said, I speak about regulations, and especially when I talk to news journalism organizations, because everybody's like, well, hey, I have the right to do this. I have the First Amendment. I'm freedom of the press to do this. That's why I'm saying there's those stop signs at 2:30 in the morning kind of situations when it comes to journalism, right? So, but there are flip sides when sometimes things go a little bit further than they're supposed to. So Jeff knows the story. So we were, I was called in. The Press Photographers Association of Greater Los Angeles reached out to me about a situation that was happening in downtown Los Angeles. And in downtown Los Angeles, you guys might have seen it, whether you're from the area or not even from the area. There is, right in downtown, there's a huge tower building that the developer just walked away from. And so, what's that? There's two of them.
Two towers. There are two towers, yeah.
That's right, two towers. And right there, right in downtown, right next to LA Live and crypto, right in there, right? And then what happened was the public just wasn't paying attention. And then a bunch of taggers, artists, street artists, went up there and tagged it, right? So it's the graffiti tower, right? And some of you guys might have seen it. I mean, it makes the real life Grand Theft Auto, Los Santos kind of a thing in real life. And so it's right there in downtown. So it's actually very iconic. So what happened, a lot of people, attention was raised. Photographers went down there and started, especially press photographers, started popping drones up, flying around, getting some good shots. There's some amazing shots. You can Google them and look them on YouTube. Some of the video shots where they wrap around and kind of a thing. It's really cool shots, really colorful, right? But it is downtown. So a couple things with that. The city of Los Angeles didn't want this to become a tourist attraction. They didn't want people to come in and then everybody and the mother just running to Costco, grabbing a drone and flying a drone in downtown Los Angeles to take some pictures of a graffiti tower, right? And so they were really bad on it. Plus, there was the idea of like, if you didn't know what you were doing and you were flying your drone irresponsibly, there's a lot of people down there. And there's a lot of situations where you could put people in harm's way. So indirectly. And so the city said, we need to stop this. So the city went to LAPD and said, we need to stop this, right? LAPD said, aha, we have a law. And that's a controlled airspace. And we can cite these photographers for putting these drones up, and we can impound them, we can arrest them, we can do all that for doing all this kind of stuff, right? So they start doing that. They start impounding drones, citing photographers and photojournalists down there. And they're putting on their social media and they're saying, got another one. And they got, the theme from Cops playing in the background, and they're really hyping it up, and don't fly drones in the graffiti tower, we're going to get you, kind of a thing, and really making a big deal. And so, but the Press Photographer Association Greater Los Angeles, a couple of photographers got their drones impounded, got, cited, and they said, this is bullshit, right? And so looking at it, the way the federal laws state, because it's a national airspace system, it's regulated by the federal government, by the FAA, and the way the ticket and the citations are saying that it's a citation that they were flying in controlled airspace based off of what the city ordinance is. So I got called in, I look at it, I looked at the FAA, I looked at the regulation, I said, well, where's the airspace? It's pretty open airspace in downtown Los Angeles. There's no airport anywhere near. LAX is too far away to affect downtown Los Angeles. And so I thought, federally, that's okay. And I checked the municipal they had antiquated, they have old pre-Part 107 certifications for their regulations. Theirs was the city ordinance is 5 mile, like get a protractor and go 5 miles around an airport. And that's where you are. Still, you do that around the airports, doesn't affect downtown Los Angeles. So I reach out to my contacts in DC for FAA and say, hey, this is what the LAPD is doing. What am I missing? And they came back and they said, oh, hell no, they can't do that. Right? They can't do that. And come to find out, what LAPD was doing is they had arbitrarily declared their helicopter pad as an airport. And so 5 miles within that Hooper LAPD helicopter landing pad, that's where they said, yep, there's the airport, we're going to cite you. So FAA said, no, that's not how it works, right? Federal government stepped in and said no. So we had called a meeting, and we were going to go have the meeting with LAPD saying, hey, we need to address this. So it was myself, LA Times photographer, the vice president of the PPAGLA. Jeff, were you going to? Were you going on that meeting? Or
Originally, I was going to go, and then you said they only wanted 2 people. Or
yeah,
something,
yeah.
So.
Yeah, they told me they were kind of, yeah. We were trying to see who we could get, and so the day before the meeting, there's a social media post that came out that just kind of said, basically, just said what happened, and then the LAPD also just took down all their social media posts that they had about busting drone pilots. Like all of a sudden that was gone. And then, like I said, the day before the meeting was held, they said, yeah, we're going to cancel that meeting. This is with one of their captains. We're going to cancel that meeting because we're reevaluating our drone policy, and thanks, kind of a thing. So they realized that they were in the wrong. They were overstepping the bounds. So, so I don't know. I didn't follow up with what happened with the citations and stuff. I'm sure they were written off, but and the press photographers were refunded or whatever. But like I said, sometimes laws can overstep. So like, again, from a regulation standpoint, the biggest thing is, first off, commercially, if you're going to do this commercially, you have to get your Part 107 certification, right? That's it. If you're going to do it, I mean, that's just, if you're doing this for any kind of commercially, for journalistic purposes, you're going to get this published. You can even put this on YouTube or anything like that. When there's some kind of potential monetization or compensation that's going to happen, even if a real estate agent hires you to do some real estate photography and they buy you lunch, but they're going to use those photos on their listing, technically you need to get the commercial license, because there's a lot of unlicensed professional kind of a thing that you need to be in that situation. And once you get the license, you're set, right? Because all it is just 2 years online free renewal kind of a thing. You just do training online and you're good for another 2 years. So like I said, once you get your license, then you're going to be predisposed to not do anything stupid anyways, and kind of just comply with the law. But yeah, like I said, but sometimes there are some laws or some regulations out there that not really in that situation. Things like national parks and those kind of things you can't fly into. Sometimes state parks, sometimes things depending on a different state and local municipalities still have different laws on top of the federal laws. So different cities, different counties, different states have different laws and regulations on top of just the federal laws. So you can't just fall back and say, all the federal law says this. Yeah, but our city ordinance says this. So you're in trouble, right? So you gotta do due diligence if you're going to be flying in an area. Just have an idea, concept of the law for those. It behooves you. For the most part, though, the federal laws are pretty much of a guideline. So, Robert, I saw your question. What kind of privacy issues have you run into flying a drone? I think Jeff can probably talk to it, but I had a situation. Well, privacy, again, different states, different laws. I believe Nevada has a 250-foot rule across the state. If you're flying over residents, you have to stay at least 250 feet above. Not all states have those, but state of Nevada has that. And that's just an example. The idea, you don't necessarily want to, you want to be a good steward, good neighbor kind of a thing. You don't want to seem as if you're doing something creepy. I've had many friends that have done real estate photography that have had neighbors come running out of the house and, hey, my daughter's in the backyard. And, what are you doing? It's like, hey, the house next to you is for sale. And I'm hired to photograph that house. I don't care about your house, so unless you pay me,
I'll tell you how I approach it the same way I approach when I'm doing photojournalism on the ground, kind of an expectation of privacy issue. If you're out in public, you don't really have an expectation of privacy. But if you're in your house through the windows, or even if you're in your backyard, I'm like, I've definitely flown places and people have questioned me, but I kind of go with the basic rule of if you're in public, you don't have privacy. But if you're in a place where if you're in a place where you expect privacy, like in your house, like if I'm flying and there's a tall building and apartments, you expect privacy inside your windows. I'm not looking in the windows. But so I just kind of go with that general rule. Same rule I go with when I'm on the ground.
Yeah, I had a situation where it was a commercial thing. I was hired to photograph a company because they wanted to do some aerial shots. They just put some solar panels on, and they wanted to do some shots for their corporate office back in Massachusetts. So I was flying around, and I went in on I photographed it on a Sunday because they didn't want cars. They just wanted just the building and the property and stuff. And it was in a little commercial area, right? I'm flying around. There's no cars out there. I parked far away, so it was good, right? Anyways, this guy comes out of this neighboring building, comes over. I didn't know anybody was there. There's no cars or anything like that. He comes over to the neighbor building, walks over to me kind of quickly. And I'm like, oh, geez, here we go. What's going on? And so then he starts asking me questions, a little nervous, right? Asking me questions about what am I photographing, what am I doing? I'm trying to explain them. I'm showing some shots, explaining the angle, that kind of stuff, what I do. He then became more calm and relaxed. So it was more of a peace of mind thing that I wasn't photographing anything over his building. Come to find out through a little bit of conversation, a little bit reading between the lines, is in his commercial property. In the back part of it, he was growing stuff that he shouldn't have been growing. And he was a little nervous about what I could see from the air. And again, I told him, I said, I don't care about you. I don't want your building in my shot. It's not part of the shot. So that's what made it relax a little bit more. But, like Jeff was saying, the idea is just respect people's feeling of privacy and understand you do have a camera in the air, and just don't be a jerk about it. Be like, oh, I don't care, screw you, just the idea, kind of respect it and be a good neighbor in regards to that. And if it's public, it's public, right? And
I'm sorry. I find people are pretty nice most of the time. I have this, I'll share this picture. I shot this picture. They don't light up the Hollywood sign very often. I mean, it's very rare. And so I went out to photograph this, and there's a park right below here. And I know the park has regulations, and I was across the street near some homes, kind of the end of homes on the street. So I take out my drone, and somebody else takes out his drone, and this woman comes out and goes, "You can't fly here. You can't fly here. They're confiscating drones. The airspace is regulated. The park rangers you can't fly near the park." And I'm like, I know the rules. So this guy gets nervous and he packs up his drone and leaves. And I'm like, well, okay, I'll deal with it. And so I fly and I take off. And then the woman comes over and she starts asking me questions. I'm answering her. She's getting really nice. And she goes, "Yeah, I just made that up because I didn't want people flying near my house." I'm like, I know you made it up because I know the rules. But
right. Yeah.
But once I was answering her question, she was really nice. You know what I mean?
If you're there for a purpose, that I think you're fine if you're there for a purpose. And then once people, they just want that reassurance that you're not spying on them or whatever, you're not doing, it's not anything with them or whatever, or that you are there for a legitimate purpose. And then that's when they're nice and they're at, hey, how high can that go? How far can it fly? How much does that cost? That kind of, then they start asking and stuff. But like I said, it's just, you got to understand where they just put yourself in their shoes sometimes and respect that, as far as like, I get it. I know why you're concerned, but rest assured, I'm a professional, kind of a thing. And then I think that works out pretty well.
Jeff and Jay, Jeff, first of all, could you say again, because Lourdes is asking, say again the drone that you use, the make and model?
So right now, my main one that I use is the DJI Mavic 3 Pro.
And then could you
It's
both, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm saying it's probably one of the best consumer level or prosumer, I guess, drones. And it has three
100%.
lenses, like your cell phone has three lenses. So you have a wide lens, three cameras, a wide lens, a medium, and a long lens. It gives you a good variety to shoot with, and it's really
You can
stable.
you can shoot RAW or JPEG or RAW and JPEG. You just a lot of great dynamic range.
Mhm. And then could you both just say again how you got your certification? Uh, did you go to a school? Did you just read up the book and take the license? I'm thinking
So
maybe Jeff's, you may have done that, but
so Jeff's
anyway, go
got the
ahead.
easy way. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, well, so I already had my private pilot's license,
Yeah.
so I studied online and then I took the test. You
Yeah.
go to an FAA testing center, pay $150, and you take the test on the computer. And it's interesting because I thought a lot of the stuff they asked you pertained to more of like was a lot of reading charts and knowing how to read weather readouts and stuff that you don't ever use when you're flying a drone. I mean, you're looking at your phone, you're getting your weather from your phone. You don't need to know all that stuff. But I felt like I had a good background to know it. But
Right.
I have friends that did it too, and they just studied online and they went and took the test.
Yeah. So with that, yeah, because that's what we train for here, and I train a bunch of students for. Actually, it's $175 now. So it's $175. And if you have your Part 61, if you have your pilot's license, it's at like a 40 question test because, as Jeff said, a lot of that other
But
stuff.
I wasn't current, so I had to take the whole test.
There you go.
I wasn't current on my private, so
So if you are, then it's just like, oh, here you go. But it's a 60 question test, and you have 2 hours to do it. It's on a range of aviation stuff, and as Jeff pointed out, you have to know it for the test, but in reality, it's all going to be on an app, and you can just pull the app and tell your weather, tell your authorization and stuff. But what the FAA wants drone pilots to do, since aviation has been the world for them for years, they want you to conform to their world a little bit. So show that you can understand a sectional chart with controlled airspace and stuff. Confirm to them that you can read aviation weather and understand where wind speed is and directions and cloud cover and those kind of things are and how that is set up. And then obviously understand the regulations and aeronautical decision making, which is basically just don't do stupid things. And those kind of things. Those are, they test you on. So there's a lot of resources out there. 90% of the stuff online, free online, is good. There's a 10% that are just questionable, that people are just kind of making stuff up. But yeah, that's once you get your license, then you're good, right? Because like I said, every 2 years you have to go online for free evaluate, like you become current again, right? You recurrent training, and it's free. You can't fail it. It's just basically bringing you up to speed on new regulations, and then you're good for the next 2 years. And then do that every 2 years, and you can do that at home in your pajamas at 2:30 in the morning if you want to. So it's free 24/7. So the biggest hurdle is just getting that license, and once you get that license, then you're solid. You can use drones all the time, and the Mavic 3 Pro is the best for all roundabout for photos.
Jeff and Jay, some questions coming in. How hard is it to get clearance to fly in a city? And do you need that? Do you even need that clearance? And Victoria would like to be able to get some shots over Baltimore.
So I'd have to check the airspace in Baltimore. But really depends on how close you are to an airport is really where it kind of comes. That's their first factor. It's not necessarily cities per se. It's the proximity of the airport. Then on top of that, cities do have laws. And like, for example, Laguna Beach, here in Orange County, you know, the typical like LA or Orange County, Laguna Beach, it's the picturesque crown jewel, right? And they have all kinds, the city has all kinds of laws, and you can't take off from or land in any of the parks or take off from or land in any of the beaches. But then in like fine print, it says, unless you have your Part 107 certification. And so things like that, the biggest thing just to understand, they're trying to, most cities, their first reaction is to say no, and counties as well, is to say no, because they need to determine you're not just a Costco pilot. And I love Costco, but I use that term as somebody that just picked up their drone at Costco, and a bunch of samples and, you know, some pants or whatever, and they just went out and like, hey, now I got a drone. So they want to differentiate those folks from professionals. So if you're doing it with a purpose, you're doing it for a reason, and you're 99% of the time better off. So it would just depend. There are apps that can pull up airspace. An easy one is Before You Fly, and
There's Baltimore.
There's Baltimore.
There's Baltimore.
For most of Baltimore, it looks like you're
Yeah,
open airspace.
looks like you're good.
Yeah.
Okay, question from Gregory, moving a little bit farther westward to Texas. He's wondering if there's any particular regulations restrictions for the state of Texas.
So Texas, what's funny is I got a little story with Texas. So Texas, about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, they dumped all their drone laws. They just, and the Texas state legislature only meet like once a year. And so, putting that together, they came back and did a whole bunch of, they came back and did laws. So usually the biggest thing, they're not that restrictive in Texas, but federal laws are federal laws, no matter what state you're in. So you have that as a base. It's just whatever they put on top of it. And I think you just would have to check with your city or county on top of it. But just know that Texas, as a state, just implemented a whole bunch of they just started from scratch and went a whole bunch of brand new laws. And I know that from the drone pilots I know that work in Texas, they don't hate it. You know, they mumble grumble about it, and some things like, oh, I wish we did this, but it's not as bad. So Texas, you might be okay, but just check your local state stuff on top of the federal law.
Gloria is wondering if the drones get lost, and with the setup to that question, I have to tell everyone that, you know, kind of before the drone age became what it is, Jay was pretty big on whatever kind of photographic kind of new gear was out there. So he strapped a GoPro onto a helicopter for an assignment there, which eludes me at this point. But anyway, somewhere over La Habra, the GoPro blew off. And Jay went looking for it. So that's a testimony to his character, that he wanted to recover that, you know, state property. As far as I know, though, I don't think it's ever been found, but in case you find it all rusted and all by now, that's what happened to that. So with that as a backdrop, then do the drones get lost?
Not as much as a GoPro. That was a funny story. I had it mounted on the outside of the helicopter. I'm photographing with a long lens. I'm photographing and come back over photographing, come back over, look out, the GoPro's gone. I'm like, I don't know where it went, but we're just gonna move on past that one. So I didn't hear any brake screeching or any accidents happening. So I think we're okay. But yeah, no, they here's another thing. It depends on how much you're paying for the drone. Like, I have a brother-in-law that has a house painting business, and he's like, Jay, you're into drones, maybe you can help me out. I'm like, okay, sure. And he's like, I've had like 5 drones, and you know, they always like fly away or or they're cracked, they're going to the tree. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, okay, well, first off, how much are you spending on them? It's like about $40 each. I'm like, that's why, right? That's why. So you don't count those. I saw somebody in here, Robert loves his mini. Perfect. A mini is solid. Anything from a mini up, and that's usually like, again, Costco prices, like $700-800 at Costco. You move on up. Those will have a return to home feature. They will have limited sensors depending on how much you're investing. The Mavic 3 Mavic Pros will have more sensors, but the minis have just some limited sensors, so for obstacle avoidance. But they will return to home. If you lose them, you can always engage return to home. If the battery gets too low, it will come back and land at home. So for the most part, the manufacturers, if you're investing that much money, the manufacturers have determined that, well, we got to try to idiot proof this a little bit. So you're going to have your a little bit of return on your investment kind of a thing. So you're not going to not necessarily lose it per se. But that being said, there are situations, especially in the past, earlier, maybe Jeff can talk to this, but earlier drones, there were some issues, some interference and flyaways and stuff. So if you do have an older model drone, sometimes they're a little bit more finicky and more susceptible to interference and problems. But the newer stuff, they've got a lot more connectivity to the remote, and they're trying to self-preserve themselves.
I had some issues when I had a Phantom 2 years ago, where I'd fly it and it would get stuck somewhere, and then I couldn't control it. It wouldn't fly away, but never with the new stuff. Never. I would say though, with the $40 drones, you know what else is? They're also harder to fly, because like if you have a mini or something with a GPS, it'll go where you want. You let go of it and it'll fly. It'll just hover. Those cheap drones, you're fighting the wind, so you're like, they're harder to fly.
And they'll drift. You know, they'll just start moving. You're like, wait, I'm not even touching the sticks, and they'll just move.
Okay, a couple other questions. Nyurka, I hope I'm saying that right, is wondering, with all of the controversy with Chinese equipment, is it wise to perhaps avoid maybe a Chinese-made drone?
So I can jump on that one right away on that one. So, so with the ban, no ban kind of a thing. So federal agencies, the federal government can't use Chinese-made drones. Some states, there are, I think, 5 states. Florida is the big one, Tennessee, Kentucky, I think Georgia, no, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, have state bans. So state agencies can't do it. So if you do any kind of work with a state agency, any kind of work with a federal agency, you can't use the Chinese-made drones. So, and then there's a lot of ones that are opting out. They're just opting to be not use Chinese drones. There is a ban going through that if it can't be justified, will probably not be able to get any new. It can't be justified that it's safe, that Chinese drones are ultimately safe and not broadcasting back to Beijing. Then we'll be capped at our level of technology. That would be next year, at beginning of 2026. So we couldn't get any new technology, but we would be grandfathered into old technology. So we would just be like Cuba with 1957 Chevys, right? Really good 1957 Chevys, but we couldn't get any new vehicles in there. So that's kind of where we're at. So if you get the top of the line stuff now, then you'll be able to sit on that with or without it. Because that's an FCC ban that they're looking to go through, not necessarily an FAA ban. That's a communication thing, so it's a little bit of a different ban. But from a journalist standpoint, from a photojournalist standpoint, there is no other option other than the DJI aircraft. Autel maybe, but that's Chinese also. There's no camera drone that competes. There's no competitor. Let's put it that way. There's no competitor with DJI. DJI has about 90% of the market. And a friend of mine, Matt Brown, works now for a university, and he's doing photography and stuff, and they said they can't use DJI. And so he asked me what other options are there. I'm like, man, there's not any other options. But there is one that they're trying to make an alternative workaround. It's a company that's licensed. It's Anzu Robotics, which is in Texas. The aircraft are built in Malaysia, and they use software from Seattle. So it's non-Chinese, although it's the Mavic model because it's licensed from DJI. So, but
it's green.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
green.
the difference is it's green.
but it's the enterprise side, so it's not the photo side. So you have two lenses. You can't shoot RAW. You don't have the same settings that you can do. So it doesn't have that photography capabilities. It's just it's great if you're doing industrial inspections, but not for photography or photojournalism. So it's very limited to what you can do. So still right now, DJI is the better way to go, and just get the best tech that you can now, and just hold on to it. Stock up on batteries because that way you don't run out of batteries.
Jay and Jeff, two somewhat related questions. Do you have issues, this from Gennaro, do you have issues with losing signal or conflict with other drones in the area, in the Houston, Texas area? So a lot of cell and network towers and people nearby. And then Gloria asking a related question. What about if there's 4 drone journalists in one airspace? I mean, who has the right of way?
Jeff, you want to take that?
I can talk to that. Well, a little bit about the especially now, like if I'm talking about the Mavic 3 Pro that I'm flying, I notice you get the signal strength, and I can fly much further when I'm in an open area than in a city. I might not be able to fly as far, but nothing where I can't control it or bring it back, and it tells you you have low signal, like it gives you a warning. So not really an issue. But as far as flying with other journalists, can I show these? I have a story to tell about the fires. So maybe that would.
This is the other thing, Jeff. I'm going to Jeff to share the story about the fires. Yep.
Okay. So this kind of goes with. I will tell you. So we and I'll get into answering your question. Me and about 10 other photographers worked with CAL FIRE and the FAA. This was during the fires in LA in January. And this was actually, so a drone hit the Super Scooper. A guy was flying a drone from Santa Monica, miles away from where he was actually standing, and he hit the Super Scooper. And even after that, CAL FIRE and the FAA was willing to work with us to let about 10 of us fly in these. Am I sharing my screen? Fly in these zones. This is while they were still fighting the fire. So they gave us these rules. This was the date. We had 10 days or whatever, and we would have to get to this area. We'd have to call a guy at CAL FIRE and say, "I'm here. Is it okay?" And he'd say, "Oh, wait a half hour. I got equipment in the air. Okay, go fly. Let me know when you're done." But they were working with us, which was awesome. But when that happened, like 4 of us are out here in zone 1. So and I've done this other times, shot other things, and it's always been good. I've never had any problems. We just talk to each other. Hey, I'm going to go up. I'll go up after you, or let's do this. I'm going to fly this way. You fly over there. Like, I've always talked to the other photographers in person, and we just make a deal. Like, we just work together. It's never been, and it's happened a number of times, and I never had somebody go, "No, I'm doing this. Screw you." Everyone's just always been willing to work together. But I will go down and show some of these pictures from the fire because, like Jay said, these are just you can't see this, the total devastation. You just cannot see from the ground, from the air. I mean, from the ground. I have a picture. This was in Malibu, but I have a picture that's coming up. Like, you cannot see this from the ground. You just can't comprehend the amount of devastation. And that's downtown LA in the background. Street after street after street. Just angles you can't. Oh, there's a little video. So and angles you can't get. If you look back here, you can see LAX back there in the background. Even just this I like, because this I took from the air, and then I So the same picture from the ground. Oops, sorry, I went too fast. But I'll tell you, let me go back just a second. I'll just show you a little thing I did before we could fly drones because I like shooting up high so much. This is a camera on a 30-foot pole before they would let us fly. Just because I wanted that angle. I like that high angle so much. Oh, that's me putting up the pole, but we don't need to get into that. But anyways, you get the idea. So I don't know if I hope that answered your question about work. Like I said, I shot, I think in December, I shot a boat parade at night where they light up the boats and stuff. And there were 2 other drone photographers and we just worked together. I said, oh, I'm going to fly over here. Oh, I'll fly over here. Let me know when you're done. And we were talking to each other. And it's always been very cooperative.
Yeah, that's the best way.
Okay. Ethan's got a question. Ethan, go ahead.
Hi everyone. Thanks for this all this great information. My question is for Jay. Jay, you launched and run the drone education program at Fullerton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about that because I teach multimedia journalism at San Antonio College, and I handle mostly the photography and photojournalism courses, and I'm interested in potentially offering something similar, and so I'm kind of curious about how difficult it was to get that going, and if you have any advice for something. I think like for our audience, like just being able to develop like a Part 107 certification and maybe like a journalism oriented drone program would be like a couple classes that could be very valuable for our curriculum and what we do at San Antonio College journalism.
So yeah, so you said San Antonio, not Mount San Antonio, right?
No, San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio.
Okay, good. Yeah, yeah.
I
saw the LA hat, and I was just like, oh.
Yeah, I'm originally from California. I'm one of the many Texas transplants. I came with the left coast horde of migrants a few years back. So,
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Because I also teach an occasional drone journalism class specifically at Cal State Long Beach, and the interesting thing is, it has to be packaged in a multimedia photo video sort of way, because it's interesting because journalism students, what I've seen, college students kind of tend to pick like, hey, this is my track, this is the class I need to graduate, right? And then sometimes they don't look at electives so much. Some do, but they don't necessarily look at electives, or the biggest thing as far as enrollment from like a drone journalism per se, sometimes it can be challenging enrollment. Let me put it that way. So you have to package it and bundle it with under the multimedia, under the cinematography, under those kind of things as well to drum up interest. Because then you pull photo students in, you pull cinema documentary students in, and that kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it all blends together. But it's hard. So, and the first thing, I mean, I would tell you just scout it out. You can get my contact info. I'll send it over there, but you can reach out and I'll give you some materials and curriculum and ideas and stuff that can help build it. And but one of the things I'm going to tell you you're going to run into is administration. One of the hurdles, and risk management. And it depends on which way. Are they pro with risk management, or are they, do whatever, we'll figure it out kind of a thing. If they're the latter, you're good. You have an easier shot. But if they're more worried about lawsuits and those kind of things, and all they think of just spinning blades above school children and stuff, whatever that perspective, then it's a different conversation that you need to have. It's not impossible, but you just have a steeper hill to climb. But yeah, I'll throw my email in the chat and you can reach out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Victoria, I do want to jump in on this one. So there are universities that already have around the country that already have drone journalism classes. They don't always offer them, but they always have. University of Missouri has a drone journalism class. University of Arizona has a drone journalism class. University of Nebraska, Northwestern. I'm surprised Maryland. Maryland probably should or could, but I don't think they do. North Carolina State, it's not a journalism class, but they have a drone program at the university. Florida, yes, I believe Northwestern had not a program. I think they have a drone journalism class. And those classes, like I said, enrollments are challenging. So they'll do them like maybe once a year or, once every other year kind of a thing. So it's not like your basic journalism 101 kind of class that fills up every semester or whatever. So, but yeah, there are some out there specifically that are available that through journalism colleges at different colleges. But yeah, again, you can reach out and I can kind of put in Texas. You know what? You'll get my email. Reach out because I'm seeing all these questions come in. What about this school? What about this school? I can give you contacts. I can give you folks. I can tell you people. So Texas, I can tell you real quick because I was just in Houston at a drone conference, and Texas A&M and Texas A&M Corpus Christi, College Station in Corpus Christi, big. They got some big drone, not just journalism, but not specifically journalism, but they have some big drone programs, which makes it easier for the journalism programs to then tack on a class, or at least you can get your 107 stuff under either Corpus Christi or College Station.
Jay and Jeff, well, Victoria, did Jay answer your question? Anyway, go ahead, Victoria.
I don't think I had Victoria. Jay, I just wanted to know what the drone conference was about.
So I'm part of an association, AVSI, which is the Association for Uncrewed Vehicle Systems International. It's all things autonomous. So it's not just like drones per se, but it's also ground terrestrial robotics and maritime submersibles and surface, all autonomous systems and that kind of stuff. So with that association, they have conferences around the country. And this year it was in Houston. Next year it'll be in Detroit. Year after it'll be in Miami, and then comes back out to Anaheim here. But it's a big one. Like it's almost overwhelming because it's just all you see, like Amazon drones, Amazon delivery drones, and then also like Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin are there. So you see some like Global Hawk, Predator, big defense, autonomous systems for defense, a lot of defense contracted companies. There's a couple Ukrainian drone companies that were there. And man, that's some interesting stuff when they present. But that's a big beta test as far as autonomous technology going on right now. But there's all of that. So there's heavy defense, heavy, just a lot of big systems and a lot of international. That being said, there's a smaller conference if you guys can make it. My plug for them, I have no affiliation with them other than we exhibit there. There's a conference coming up September. It's Labor Day weekend. So Monday is Labor Day, and then or is it Labor Day? Memorial Day, Labor Day, and that it's September. Yeah, And Tuesday, it's that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's in Las Vegas, and it's the commercial UAV Expo, and everything there is commercial drones. So everything, all aerial stuff. So they do some workshops and stuff about night photography, because similar ones that they have at the NAB conference, they have the same folks do the same training at commercial UAV, and you'll see all kinds of different drones and stuff, but it's all for commercial purposes. So it's really more of a aerial drone kind of competition or conference, and they have some good workshops and stuff. But that's always a good one. It's always in Vegas. Although I think they're thinking about moving to either San Antonio or Phoenix, they said. So, but yeah, so if you guys can swing that one, that's a pretty decent conference to go to. That's not so overwhelming, and it's a lot more applicable to like the tech that you might be using. Yeah.
Jeff, before I forget, could you put your email in the chat? And then
Sure.
Jay, could you, since you teach people who are going to fly drones for all manner of applications, what are some of the other jobs that drone pilots take when they leave your classes?
Yeah, so it's a rabbit hole that just doesn't stop. It's just so many different applications. It just keeps another things. I found out nurses are using drones for, organ transplant. They're getting certified for organ transplant between hospitals and stuff. So there's all kinds of stuff. We do a lot of stuff with mapping. I think one of the caveats to this was 3D modeling for storytelling. I think part of the intro on that one. So we do, that's an area that I really want to get more into, and get more people involved in, because through drones, you can do 3D modeling. And then utilizing some tools from the geospatial world, like ArcGIS Pro and those kind of things. Not even, they have story, oh my gosh, Esri's story maps. Story maps is great, and you can have interactive stories, and you can create 3D model and 3D model fly-throughs and stuff with drones. It's great. And 3D printing. So there it is. You can make a 3D scan, and you can do it digitally, and you can also then put it into some CAD drawing and run it through a 3D printer and make a 3D model of it, so you can actually have an interactive map. You're not an interactive map, but you can have a physical design of it. So we do a lot of stuff with a lot of folks get into industrial infrastructure inspection, a lot of utilities, electrical, water. We do some public safety. We have some folks that get into a lot of mapping, cartography stuff, GIS stuff. Actually, so Victoria, it's software. So you don't have the accessories. It's really the software. So the drones capture the JPEG images, and then the software puts the JPEGs together, tiled based off of their geo-reference data, their geotag data. And so now they're layered exactly, like I know exactly where this one goes, and this one goes, this one goes, this one goes. And then so it can make a virtual 3D model. And then you can convert that into like a point cloud, or move that into a CAD design that can then be sent to a printer. We do that in our lab component, where they 3D print materials and stuff all the time. So so there is that as well. But from the drone perspective, it's just JPEGs. You're just taking pictures. So it's just, they have the metadata on the backside has their longitude, latitude, and Z, their XYZ location, so it knows where it goes.
Before we run out of Zoom runway, I've forgotten Gloria's question, and that's can you fly drones inside? And I have to set that up with, I think it was years ago, Jay, you had showed me a video of some guy on a talk show or whatever, and he was so precise as a pilot. He lifted something out of one guy's hand, and he put it over into the other guy's hand. But anyway, the question is a serious one. Can you fly inside? And I'm presuming you're thinking like of concerts and whatnot. But anyway, can you run with that one?
Yeah. So you can fly inside. The federal government has no regulation on what's inside a building. It's just the property owner. However, that being said, one of the federal guidelines regulations is you can't fly over people. So, so don't think like, yeah, we're gonna fly over Coachella or whatever, that kind of stuff. You can't do that. You can't fly over stadiums. You can't fly over people's heads and those kind of things. There's an asterisk to that because there are allowances for those, and there's usually the little small drones that can fly. That if it does fall and land on you, it's just gonna piss you off and not break your collarbone. That's kind of acceptable on the FAA standpoint, but for the most part, just every day that your Costco drones, your Best Buy drones, those kind of camera drones, you can't fly over people. But you could fly indoors. So if you had an indoor situation, and the property owner was cool with you doing it, you could fly indoors as long as there was nobody on the ground. Now the thing is, when I say nobody, you can't fly over people, it's not like if somebody's walking, you have to be like, oh no, I gotta zoom around them. You can you can transit over people, you just can't hover over mobs of people. If your motors die and you land on somebody, you're wrong, right? So think of it that way.
Before we run out of time, any other questions for Jeff and Jay?
I see somebody.
Oh, go ahead.
No, somebody asked about insurance.
Yeah.
And I'll say, like, so I'm on staff at the Orange County Register, but I do freelance work. I do quite a bit. And there's a company, two different companies I use that will just issue insurance per job. And that's what I use. So like last time the one I was using went out of business. So I think it's Skywatch. I think it's Skywatch. I just called it up here. Yeah, Skywatch. Yeah. So like I had a job the other day and it was for 2 hours for $1 million coverage was $43. So I just did that and tacked that onto my invoice and make that part of my billing.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. The companies will do it like you can just do a turn on, turn it off kind of the coverage kind of a thing. But you can also get insurance for you can do policies sometimes. I think either State Farm or Farmers, one of the farm ones has it. You can build it into a policy, drone coverage. So Victoria, you're talking about insurance companies. Yeah, I've had adjusters. Some insurance adjusters and
I see.
adjusters come through my program just to get their license so they can start using it for stuff. I've known some folks that have worked, either on the insurance side or on the legal side. They hire drone operators to get some stuff so they can use it in a lawsuit, just like a civil lawsuit, or that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, well, now you all know why Jay and Jeff are such pros to work with. So coming up, second Tuesday of next month, continuing journalist development series. If you have any suggestions for coaches or want to see certain topics, you want to contact Noel right up there in the upper right corner. So let's see. Hold on, let's see if we've answered all the remaining questions.
And you've got our contact info. You got Jeff's Instagram, which is amazing. Follow that.
Thanks.
I don't
put my email.
I don't know how much this guy shoot. He just has a drone in his car at all times, fully charged, just popping stuff up there.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Me? I have a battery. I have a battery pack that charges my drone batteries in the car. So I learned as a photojournalist to always travel with my cameras. Like I'm always, so the drone is now just part of my gear I always have with me.
He's shooting me again. Yeah.
Jeff, are you the register staff drone photographer, or some of your colleagues doing this as well?
No. Well, one other person now has his Part 107. I think he got it last year. But it's pretty much me. Like I've been doing it since 2015, and Paul Bierzabach?
Yes.
Yeah, so he got his Part 107, I think, last year. So he does a little flying, but it's pretty much me. And Dean Musgrove up at the Daily News flies too. Do you know Dean, Jay? Do you know Dean Musgrove?
I've seen the name. I don't
He's
know
a
him
photo
personally.
editor up there. Well, he used to work at the Herald Examiner. That's how old he is.
Oh wow.
But he's a photo editor at the Daily News, but he flies too. So he
Nice.
flies up in LA.
Okay. Thanks everyone for joining. A round of applause, please, for Jeff and Jay.
Well, good luck to all of you guys.
You can't hear it, but you did see it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Have a good evening, everyone. Happy flying. And you've got Jay and Jeff's info to contact them for further
Reach
advice
out
on how to do all
anytime.
this. Okay.
Yeah, happy to answer any other questions, but good luck to all you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
All right, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks,
See you
guys.
later.